Okay, let's try creating some workflows and how it looks. So you have to go to the setup, and there you can see a workflow rules. So here workflow rules and workflow actions. So these are all different actions for all workflows you can see here. Anyway, first we'll go to a workflow and see. So anybody have any idea what we can configure in? Project? Next. Yeah, there's one more part in that workflow is we have a rule and evaluation criteria and rule criteria. We have not discussed this part yet. So the evaluation criteria for the workflow is three. When it has to evaluate, when you created a record, or you want to do it while creation of the record and every time it is edited. This is one option. The third option is created and anytime it's edited to subsequently meet the criteria. So you have a below a criteria when it has to fire. There will be two options. Criteria like you select the field and what is the operator and what is the value, or like you can give it like a formula expression. So we have a formula expression, right? Or a formula field validation rule. Similarly here also the output of the formula has to be either true or false. How validation rule, when the expression output is true, then it fires the validation rule. Similarly here also when the output is true, then only the workflow rule is going to fire. Okay, now the thing was, when you're saying a created, it will only fire when the record is created. If you edit the record at the time, it will not work. Only it will work when the record is created. Even though it fires on when the record is created, again it has to meet this criteria. If this criteria is met, then only it's going to fire this workflow to perform the actions. So when you're saying fire the workflow, it has to satisfy two conditions. One, the evaluation criteria has to met, and second, the rule criteria has to met. When the both criterias are met, then only it move forward to the perform the actions that you have configured. Okay, so that is clear. When it's created only at the time only it will fire. This one is every time that you create and every time you edit, it will fire. That means you no need to make any change. Just if you hit save button, that is enough to fire this workflow. And if it meeting the criteria, that is enough to fire the actions. But you don't want to fire every time. Let's say you have a email notification that has to send only when the project is approved. Okay, so once the project is approved, so it is approved only, and you are changing some other data like project start date, or like project lead or project manager, or some other fields also you will fill after it's getting approved. What happens every time you make any change to the record and the stage is approved, it will send email notifications every time that you edit the record, even though it is not approved, but the stage is approved. Because of that, even though it is not approved at the time, it will send email notifications. So if you want to avoid it, only when specific changes are happened. Let's say I have a criteria saying when what is the stage, right? when the project stage is approved, so only this criteria is met. That means the stage is a different stage before, and you specifically change the stage from different value to a approved only at the specific time. Only if you want to send an email, you have to choose the third option. Then only the specific changes are happened to that record, then only it will fire. The first one is when record is created, second one is every time it will fire, third one is when the specific changes are below or made, then only it will fire the actions. Okay, now let's look at what are all the logic we can implement here. Have any idea, thought, what we can do? Mm, 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 mm. Okay. Um, so let's take the example of the other one. I want to create one more field here. Edit object. Project ended.
Or we can create like a project status update. Like if they updated any field, we can track that time, right? What time, the last modified date.
Anyway, we have a modified date, right? So which field, yeah, which field they want to change means anyway that we have a tracking history for that field. Let's say if you enable a tracking history, I think whether you might know it or not. So we have a set history tracking, so which is used to track the field. Let's say if the email, if the particular field is changed from one value to other, if you want to track it, then you can check those fields so that it will be tracked. So if you take is the record, I think I have not added here. So we have option to track it. That is not a good example, even though you can do it using a workflows, but it is not. We have other options to track those. Okay. Want to add project ended. Okay. So I want to make a whenever the stage is completed. Do we have completed stage here or not? Yeah, whenever a project is completed, I want to capture that date as a project end date. That is my what I'm trying to do it. Project project complete workflow. Okay, so I want to do when specific changes have happened. When stage is completed, and do save and next. Here I have actions. So here you have different actions: new task, email alert, field update, outbound message, and existing actions. Like already have actions configured. So now I don't have any actions yet. So you have done some actions for different workflow, and if you want to use it here, you can use. That means choosing existing action and a time dependent workflow. You can add a first time trigger, and then which is the date you want to use, and whether after or before, and days or hours, and then the number. If you give days, it's going to be 30 days from the date you selected. If it is hours, it's going to be hours from the date. Okay, I am not doing for now. So let's do some workflow action as a new field update. Okay. Update the end date. Okay, and the object is project. So in the workflow, you can only update the record of the same object. So you cannot update any other records. So you can update only the fields from the same object. Or if it's having a master record, so you can update the master also. So because the project itself a master, you don't have a object, you cannot do it. So you have a limitation is you can do a field updates only to the same object. So here we are trying to do this project end date. Okay, and what should be the value? Value should be a formula and set new value. Formula editor. So here I want to give like today is my same day. Whenever it is fired, the same day I want to fire it. And then here you see a reevaluate the workflow rule. That means you have some logics based on this end date. And so if you do a reevaluate workflow, then only those actions will be fired. So you have any logic on an end date. And so when the end date is so and so, send an email to project manager saying that project is completed. So if that is a different workflow and you are populating the field from this workflow, if you check this box, then only the other workflow will fire. If you don't check this box, none of the other workflows will be firing. So whether it's working based on this failed or not, what will happen was it will fire all the workflows again, not fire. It will take you to the at least the first step evaluation criteria it will take. If it's met the criteria, then it will fire or it will not. So if you want to again reevaluate the workflows on this object, then you have to check this box. Otherwise, you can uncheck this box. Okay, I don't have any logic for now, so I'm doing uncheck. Okay, so this is done. I have done the action and all good. And here you have an activate button. Once you activate, then only it will work. Okay, let's make one I'm not activating it. I'm just trying to just make the stage as completed and see whether it is. So I have completed and it is save and it is not populated. Okay, and now I will activate this flow. And let's say if I just say I am not making any change, if I do a save, it will not populate for me. Why? Because the specific change is not happened. So let me change to a different stage and then make it as a, so still we don't have populated. Once I have completed, then you have end date is populated. Okay, now if I gave if I remove again, it will be removed. So this workflow will fire only when the specific changes happen. After that, if you remove the field also, it doesn't care. Why? Because it's not fall under the entry criteria. So if I make this workflow as every time it is edited, So if you observe, the workflow is still active. Okay, so I'm not making any change. I'm just doing a save. It will populate for me without making any change also. It will fire. Okay, if you have some logic that has to fire every time, you have to choose this one. But the thing was, when you have this every time editor, you don't have a option to fire the time-based workflow rules. See here, you don't have a add to time trigger. This time-dependent workflow rules only enabled only if you are using a subsequently meeting the criteria. Only for this criteria only time-based workflows are available. Okay, and it has to be in deactivate. Then only you can add a time trigger and add the actions. So I'm doing the edit here. So here you can do a add time trigger. Okay, there is an option. So I'm going to reactivate it. So to add a time-based actions, the workflow has to be in workflow should be in inactive mode, and you should have a evolution criteria as when subsequently meet the criteria. Only then you can add a time dependent workflow actions. Okay, and this is one. And let me read one more workflow. That is when the project is approved, send a email notification. I think we have already created one email template, right? Text email template that we have created. Let's use that email template and send the email. Stage. Send the email alert. So you can select the folder here so that it will be easy for you. Okay, recipient type. Overall should be a recipient. So either you can select the users directly, or you can use the email fields from the record. These are email, what all email fields available in the record, it will be shown up. So we have only one email fields. So I'm using that field. Or you can use any of this, the owners, okay, themes, public groups, any of the user groups also you can use. Sorry. And on top of it, you want to CC any of the users, like they are not from any of the users from Salesforce, or they're not from the record. If you want to add any other users common, whenever the project is approved, you want to notify that specific email, then you can use. Does anyone have any private email so we can use and test? So what is the from email address? So it can be a current user's email address, or if you set an organization wide email address, then it will be shown that address. So we have not configured that. So it will showing only the current user's email address. So from address, the like to who from whom we have received the email, that will be sent here. Okay, Marcus address, the default from my email address for the object email alerts. Okay, I'm no need to do it. Environment component, no need. I'm just doing a save here. Okay, done. I'm going to activate it. So same record. When you save it, nothing happen. So when it is approved and save, I should get a email notification from this. I have the same email or different email, just checking. Okay, it's email field, sorry. So what is the email field I have here? It's something weird. So that's how you'll get an email. So I have like two emails here. One is from that email address, and next second is me. But it is not a valid email address. So maybe that's why we don't have this email to check. So it will send to the two users. What are all the emails that you add here? All will be added in the list, and it will be send the email. Okay, and how to create a task. Okay, and I think we have not added anywhere the activities. Okay, here it should come up. So let's create. When the project is approved itself, I want to add one more action, creating a new task assigned to um, assigned to let me assign to myself, otherwise I cannot see it. Subject is project resources, not starter, high priority. Due date is project approved date plus 7 days. Comments. Before start date. Okay, and I was say I'm just trying to um, unique name. subject, okay, unique name, assign product resources, um, task, so that it will be easy for me to identify. Okay, that's okay. Done. So I have not deactivated, I have not activated. It is still active only. I'm just for sake, I'm taking some other project record. The stage is in progress, and in activities, I don't see any activities. So once it is approved, so you have what the heck? Okay, approved, right? It's approved. You will be having one email notification here. Yes, and you should able to see one task created for you. Okay, when you see the flag, this is it is a high priority. Okay, now outbound message. So we should have integration with some other system. Then only we can do a outbound message. And what else we have? Creating a task, email alert, and field update. Similarly, you can do any number of actions here for a single criteria. So what is the evaluation criteria and your rule criteria? You can perform n number of actions, and time-based actions also you can do based on your evaluation criteria. But the drawback, if you see here, you can perform the field updates that are belong to the same record, not to the related records. And you cannot have a multiple criteria. Let's say if stage is approved, do this. If stage is reject, then do this. If stage is completed, then do this. You don't have a single flow. You have once you have one criteria, you can do any number of actions. But if you have a different criteria, you have to create a different workflow rule. And the key point here was validation rule. It will not fire any validation rules. Let's say if you let's say trick, this is not something you have to use. Um, so let's say, do we have any partnership here mm, on the project? Quick list value, partnership. Okay, I want to have a validation rule that is project partner partnership employee count. Okay, so I want to have a validation rule based on my partnership. There is a minimum number of employees I should have. Let's say if um, if the partnership is gold, Then number of employees should be 500. Okay, if they are less than 500, I should not allow. This is one. This is one condition. Or if my partnership is silver, employees should be 100. Then only I want. Um, so the thing was, if I have a gold partnership, the number of employees should be greater than 500. Then only I was allowed to take a gold partnership. If for a silver partnership, it has to be more than 500. Then only I want to allow. If silver, then if it's less than 100, I am not supposed to allow. Okay, and if it is a gold, um, then I should not allow if it's less than 500 number of employees. Okay. Okay, so on the field, it is on a partnership for gold partnership. You need at least 500 employees. For silver, you need 100. Okay, that's what my violation rule is. Okay, cool. So this may not be an exact business case scenario, but what I'm trying to show here was from workflow rules, you can skip the validation rule. The validation rules will not fire when you do a field updates from a workflow rule. Okay, so where it is partnership. Okay, this is less than 425, right? So when you try to give a gold partnership, it has to give you the error message. So if it is a 530, then it will allow you to save. Okay, fine. Now, now I want to write a workflow rule. Whenever the partnership is blank and if the revenue if the revenue is um, more than $10,000, if revenue is more than $10,000, I want to set the partnership as a gold. Okay, that's what I'm going to write a workflow rule. Okay, now you guys following or it's confusing? I'm just trying a different business scenarios and want to show you how we can know the execution order. Yeah, project revenue to set partnership. Okay, when subsequently met the criteria. So when the revenue is greater than or equal 10,000, every time editor. Add action called a new field update. gold. Okay, done. Activate. Okay, so what my workflow will do, whenever the revenue is greater than or equal to 10,000, it will automatically set the partnership to a gold. Okay, so so I have a 10,000 here. So before I have a silver partnership, if I do a sale, what it does, so it's nothing, not an issue. Why? Because you have more than 500 employees, so it is not a problem. But if I make, I don't selecting anything. I'm selecting this as a 100 employees. Okay, I have a more than or 10,000 as a revenue. So it has to save as a blank partnership, or we have set a validation. Okay, let's see, say what will happen. Okay, number of employees should not be reduced. Great. Okay, yes, this some other validation is occurring here. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I'm just taking another example. Okay, now what is the revenue? Revenue is a blank here. Okay, fine. So if I have a silver partnership, not an issue. If I want to take a gold partnership, it will not allow me. Okay, do cancel. And when my revenue become 20,000, if you look at a partnership, there is a partnership. See, here it is, become a gold. But you have a validation rule that number of employee has to be a minimum 100. So if you not making any change, if you're trying to save, it will fire. But when you're updating the records from a workflow rules, it will not take the consideration of the workflow rules. Sorry, it will not fire the validation rules. When you update a records from a workflow rule, it will not fire a validation rules. Okay, clear so far on the workflows. So just doing a quick recap. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, let me ask. So workflow rules are automated rules when you have a evaluation criteria and what other is called rule criteria and evaluation criteria are met, then we can do a two type of actions, immediate and time-based actions. So time-based actions are supported only when you select the evaluation criteria as created or anytime subsequently made the criteria, then only we can do a time-based actions. And here in rule criteria, we have two types of rule criteria, either criteria is met or formula evaluates to true. And we have a evaluation criteria as three types: created, every time edited, subsequently made the criteria. Once everything is done, so you have an option to do a immediate actions or time-based actions of four type of actions. The four type of actions are email alert, field update, outbound message, and here new task. So here, and we can add any point of time the actions, but time-based actions can be added when the workflow is deactivated, and evaluation criteria is third one. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.